You know what? Fuck it. My name is Ahmad Garland, and welcome to the Balcony Tapes.
No, what do you mean? No, wait, no, I want to bring it up to them. I'll bring it to the audience and see what they think about it. No, I think it's value add. Fuck it. Hey everyone, my name is Ahmad Garland, and welcome to the Balcony Tapes. So this episode is going to be about crossing the deck, and what does that mean? Crossing the deck is making one major shift from what you used to do to where you're at now and what you do, essentially. For me, my big cross the deck shift was military to civilian. And they'd be like, hey, Ahmad, well, I never served in the military. Well, guess what? Don't worry about it. It's any major shift. It can be high school to college to working sector. It can be doctor to not doctor. It could be, I don't know. I know friends who are EMTs who are now no longer EMTs, and now what they do now, they're full-blown cops. Any major shift that you've done in your life is something I like to call crossing the deck. And when you cross the deck, you have to be really, really, really aware of big shifts create big losses, and big losses have to be mourned. Let's get into it. So when I changed out of the military, I went from 11 years, high stress environment, doing this, that, and the third. And that was my jam. That was everything I knew, was everything that I understood. And there was nothing more, nothing less. That was it. Then I crossed the deck, and from last episode, go check it out. Last episode is called The Shift, but I went from being this one dude, and now I'm a civilian sector guy wearing polos and pants and weird. I don't know. I just felt really weird, very different. But doing that, now I'm in this, corporate America sector. I had to realize that to be able to get to where I'm at right now, currently, I had to lose all that stuff, and it was losses. And that reality started to haunt me. And then I wasn't really aware of it. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm focusing on the success. I'm focusing on the grind. I'm focusing on the work. I'm focusing on getting to where I want to be, climbing my new mountain. I'm focused on, being where I want to be and how I want to be there. Right. And I didn't realize in the background, in the back end of the whole situation, I was eating myself alive emotionally and mentally. What do I mean by that? All right. So putting an end to the chapter of the military life for me and then going to civilian sector, I felt feelings of loss, sorrow, anger. I felt other feelings of confusion. I felt, well, what if, and FOMO, fear of missing out. I was like, oh, I could have done this. I could have went there. I could have done that. Last episode I talked about, I put in that Green Beret, inter-service transfer package, and it got accepted. It's like, well, what the fuck if I did that? What if I made a different choice in my career? I started feeling all these feelings of like really confused, very tainted, very weird versions and variety of regret, and I was like, shit, like, what do I do? And I didn't know this. I just felt, sometimes I would wake up and I'd be so fucking sad. Just so sad. I mean, like the big sad, like really just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? What is anything? Like, what is this? Why am I even here? And I asked myself that a lot in the past year. Like, why am I even here? And no, I'm not going to commit suicide because, for me personally, that's not the move I want to make, but it's questioning like my existence and purpose, and am I really value add to anyone in my life anymore now that I don't have this title. And that really goes into like understanding, you're not your titles. Actually, we got time to talk about it. So real quick, pause. Not being your titles. You have to understand that in life, you just do things and you gain things and titles and names and descriptors, but you have to realize that you've worked and your personality has gotten to these levels and you've gotten these things. But once you've gotten these things, those things aren't you. They're just reflections of you. They are extensions of you, but they're not you. You cannot become what they say you are. Hey, you're the CEO, but you personally aren't the CEO. Yeah, you work there, you're the CEO, that's what you do, but you're not the title, because if you lose something like that, bro. So getting back on topic, I felt that I lost everything because I was my title. I was an E6 in the military. I was this leader. I was this guy. I was this. I was that. Everything that I've ever done became me. Now that could be awarded to, like, being a young kid, 19, 18, joining the military, going on, facing things I face and going through the losses and successes and all that good stuff and a lot of bad stuff. So that could be, attributed to it, or maybe just what I think. I was scared and I didn't know who I was before I joined. I have friends that are really cool dudes that know exactly who they are. So when they get in the military, they don't really change much. They just always been. For me, I was lost, bro. I was a lost 18, 19-year-old with a whole bunch of childhood trauma. And I was just like, well, this looks like a good idea. You know what I mean? So I that was my mask. That was my face. So when I moved on from it, I felt like I lost it. I felt like it was gone forever. And now I'm like here with no mask, no face, no direction, no heading. And I'm like, where am I? What's happening? Why doesn't anything make any sense? And you start to think about these things and you're like, shit, I'm fucking lost, man. And that can go for anything. It can go from if you're working and you went to be a mechanic for X amount of years, and then you made a hard shift to something completely different. You're like, what the fuck? What's happening here? It happens to anyone. It happens to all people. So yeah, on topic. So back to where I'm at. I'm here. So I'm going through those feelings of sadness, and the big sad is like coming to get me, and I'm feeling just this overwhelming feelings. And I'm like, why the fuck am I feeling this way? I'm making good money. I'm moving forward. I'm paying debt off. Like I'm crushing it, man. Right. And I wasn't, because yeah, professionally I was great. That was amazing. Sick. But what happened is that I actually didn't really give any stock or understanding into what I lost. And I want to be careful with that word, like lost. It's not like lost, or taken away from me, or I gave up on it. It was more like I just no longer have it, because you had to move on from it. You had to make the shift. You had to cross the deck. And because I crossed the deck into a whole new world, I had to say goodbye to the old world. And when you're so immersed in your previous world, where that life, that textbook, that library, that gallery is completely 1000% you, and now it's gone. Oh, gut check. To the face, to the feelings, to the soul. And you're like, where the fuck am I now? Like, what am I doing? And the best way I can describe it, it felt like, and tell me if you guys agree in the comments, I felt like I was in a river, and the river was moving, and I saw all these people on both sides of the river on the ground moving back and forth in a direction. And for whatever reason, I felt like I couldn't figure out the flow and ebb of the water, and it was kind of spinning me in a circle. And I could see all the people to my left and right of me. They're moving in direction. They know where they're going. And I felt like I just couldn't get a feel for the current. That's how I felt at first. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm watching all this stuff happen. And I'm doing things and making things happen, and everything's going, but I just don't feel as if I'm moving the right direction based on where everyone else is going. A little bit of, where the fuck is happening? I don't know. So this is happening to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll still wake up every day. I'll still do my job. I'll still make the money. I'll be okay. Once I get into this rhythm, it'll buff out. Right. So cool. But then the not feeling what current I'm in, I started to tackle that with knowing my 3 boxes. I was talking to a mentor of mine at work, a mentor that I have currently, and fucking fantastic. And he said, you got to know about your life bucket, your professional bucket, and your relationship bucket. And I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean? He's like, I'll break it down for you. In the military, that gets collapsed into each other. Your relationship, your personal, and your work life are all pretty much one same, very dysfunctional bucket. And in the civilian sector, it's not like that. You have these hard boundaries about what matters to you and what you want to do and what you share and what you don't share, and all that good stuff. Right. So I had to figure out, okay, personally as a mod Garland, who the fuck am I and what I want to do? Then I had to figure out in my professional life what the fuck I wanted to do. And then at the very end, I felt like in my relationships, interpersonal relationships, whether they be romantic or not, where the fuck do I want to go with that? Once I started to square those buckets away of personal, work, and relationship, then the current started to make sense, and I picked it up, and I just made a choice in the end, right? But it's hard to make a choice when you don't understand the origin of where everything's coming from. It's hard to make choices sometimes like that. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you can make a choice and just go for it. But for me personally, I don't work that way. So now I figured that out. But then I was like, cool, I got it squared away, woohoo! And then I started feeling more sorrow, but it was different now. It was a different type of sad. It was more like, God, I really miss this old life of mine. I miss the community. I miss this. I miss that. And I was talking to a really close friend of mine, and they were like, yo, dog, you're only missing the fucking highlights of it all. The rose-colored shit. The fun, joy, peace, and happiness. The fucking bro time. The freaking experiences and language and everything. And I was like, yeah, so? Yeah, motherfucker, that was only like 1% of the time. The other 99% of the time was a freaking gut check, throat punch. I think I like how there's this one guy I was listening to on YouTube. He says it's a hard gate, and he's fucking right. It's just hard gates all the fucking time, and a lot of the time it's just straight fuckery, man. And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, yeah, but you're not acknowledging that. If you're gonna miss it, miss all of it, not just some of it. And I was like, because what they were trying to tell me, my buddy was trying to tell me at the time was like, holistically speaking, you don't really miss the military. Or even more importantly for everyone listening, you don't really miss your old life. You just miss aspects of your old life that you may or may not be able to recreate in this new life. And that's okay, because some things are not transferable. Some minutes, if you're old enough, don't roll over. You know what I'm talking about. So it doesn't, you know what I mean? So you're like, all right, cool. So now I'm looking at it holistically. It took me a hard minute. And even to this day, while I'm recording this, I'm like, some days are better than others. So I'm going through it and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm feeling like, and tell me again in the comments if you feel like this. I feel like I'm in a flamingo floaty in the middle of the ocean, and I am just floating and coasting. And originally that idea came from just peace and relaxation and letting go. But come to find out, that turned into being lost and stagnant in that feeling. And I was lost. Currently am less lost than I was, but I'm still working on it. And yeah, I was just so sick of being in this fucking floaty in the ocean. Yeah, there's peace and there's sounds around me, but there's also nothingness, like pure nothingness. And I'm just drifting aimlessly with no direction. And I had to figure out what the fuck I was going to do to get out of there. Well, when you figure these things out, or you start to figure these things out, and trust me, this took me the whole year. It's been a year now since I've been out, and I'm still figuring these things out. I didn't start getting to this point maybe like a month or two ago. So there's hope, and also there's some encouragement that sometimes it takes longer than that. And everyone I've ever talked to that's ever transitioned majorly into something takes years to figure out. So if you're in this situation right now while you're listening, don't feel fucking scared, or don't feel discouraged. Don't feel like fuck. Just work the problem. Keep working it. So what happens is that now I'm in this situation. I'm doing the thing, blah, 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 blah. And I had to, one, go back to my mentor, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. I'm like, what do you suggest? And he's like, well, create rules for yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean create rules? I just spent 11 years in disciplining rules and order. Yeah, he's like, yeah. And so it sounds fucking shitty, but that works. Create certain rules for yourself and abide by them. Make those be your standards. Those are your procedures. Because you make these things your standards and procedures, then you'll be able to abide by them and keep yourself accountable. And I was like, oh, I wasn't holding myself accountable to myself. I was just letting myself be lost in that floating through. And he's like, it gets easier as time goes on, but you have to learn how to get out of that floaty. And the only way to do that is create the rules so that you can start getting your direction and heading and start swimming to a shore. Because come to find out, in the ocean, there is freaking land surrounding me everywhere. I just had to make a choice to which direction I wanted to go, which is very similar to the feeling of being back in that river that I talked about a few minutes ago. The same thing, just different body of water. In reality, it's the same thing, just a different perception of where I was feeling. I was growing and I was changing in these feelings that I was going through. And because of that, I was able to start to, have the problem shift. So anyways, so now I'm here, right? I'm here now, and I'm communicating, and I'm talking, and I'm creating the rules for myself, and I'm creating a heading for myself, and I know where I want to go, and I'm still feeling fucking shitty. And I'm like, why? Why am I still feeling shitty? And then it all starts to make sense. I never said goodbye to my old life. I know that sounds like mad dramatic, but it's true. Like, I never say, hey, old me. It's been real, dog. Deuces, you know? And it's like, I've never say, all right, old life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's been real, not real fun, but later. You know, I never did any of that. I never allowed myself to do that. I just was surviving. Boom, light bulb. I realized through lots of thinking things through, lots of understanding what's happening, that I was just fucking surviving over and over and over and over and over. And not once was I living. Not once was I saying, hey, what is done is done. What has happened. I'm moving forward. This is where I'm at now. I loved it. I hated it. It was great. It was bad. It was all these types of things I want to tag to it. And at the very end, I was like, all right, I can let you go. I can let everything go. All the people I've met, all the experiences that I had, everything that ever mattered to me, I can finally just let go. And now focus on the present. Fuck. So, yeah. So I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm currently here. This is present time I'm talking to you guys. And I am working on currently letting go of my past life. Because when I made my major transition, I'm a little dramatic as a human being, and I went nuclear. I packed up all the stuff that reminded me of it, packed up everything minus like a few things that were really, 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 really important to me that I wanted to hang up. And then I freaking put it all in freaking 3 boxes, and I made a joke about it. I was like, my life in 3 boxes. Meh. And then I was done. But I wasn't saying goodbye. I wasn't mourning it. I was just running away from it. I was tucking it away. Like, how often have you tucked something away just so you didn't have to deal with it? That's what I was doing. I wasn't dealing with myself, the pain of what I felt. I was like, because saying goodbye to that past life was painful. It is still painful. Seeing things is different. But now, you know, I've gone through that, I figured that out, and now I'm currently every day working on it, just saying, you know, goodbye. And I thought it would be so easy, like, all right, 1 day, 1 minute, goodbye. But you're saying goodbye to an intangible feeling. And what I've realized is that it's not just saying goodbye once and that's it. It's saying goodbye and accepting it, saying goodbye every day to it, even though you're reminded by it, even though you have certain things that you bring into your newer part of your life that are some of the remind you of the old things. Because yeah, you develop and you build those as a baseline, use it as a foundation to get you to where you are. And you just got to be like, hey, it's okay to use those skills, but I'm still not that person. It's kind of like breaking up with someone, and now you're with this new person, but you still use some things from the old relationship because they were effective and they were positive and they were good. And it reminds you of that old relationship. Doesn't mean that you're supposed to go back to that old relationship. It just means that, okay, I can acknowledge that. I accept these things, and then you move on. And I'm dealing with that right now. It's hard. It is hard for me to say goodbye to my past life. Now, even though I've been 1 year in this new life and changed how I dressed and slowly changed how I communicate, I'm still dealing with that. I've made a few mistakes along the way. And you got to realize that, or I got to realize that it's okay for me to say, hey, goodbye. I accept this. This sucks, but it's for the better. And that's what crossing the deck is really all about. Being able to physically move there, which seems to be easier if what I realize while I've been talking about this, but it's all the emotional and physical things. It's all the emotional and spiritual things that go into it. All the intangibles, all the things you feel when you're sitting on your balcony, your porch, your couch, thinking about these things in your head. And you're like, I'm not bouncing this off anyone. So all I ask you guys out there is that share in the comments. what situations have you been in that relate to this? What have you done? What skills have you learned in that process, or what have you failed at? Because it's important. It's important for us to share these things. It's important for us to get feedback. It's important to kind of get a guideline, because, you know, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of stuck in your own way, feel like you're kind of stuck in your own shit. And, you know, you're like, oh, well, yay, you know, but, it's more than that. It's more than that. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Mikey, take us out. My name is Maud Garland, and these are the Balcony Tips.